titans of the game fell one after another on a tumultuous day one. Capped off by Alex and Kristen Foxen being felted on the same hand to burst the money bubble. Now, all eyes are on the $500,000 first place prize, with 6 of the fiercest tournament pros on earth facing off. It's bound to be a dogfight. Not to be lamented, or 2 sevens on the button, of course. Collopy will activate. 825 in front of him. Now shortest stack.
I had last time I folded 2.
This one wasn't going to be a shove.
85,000.
Oh. Schulman could find a collision here. He covers Collopy, not by a whole lot. Ace-King likes to shovel chips forward, but are there specific occasions on which, Jesse, given a super top-heavy tournament such as this, that we maybe come with something less aggressive, or you just Ace-King is Ace-King and it is what it is?
I think that, I mean, it's going to be 3-bet. It's just in what capacity is Nick going to just jam, or will he 3-bet a smaller size? I would tend to lean towards all in with the off-suited combos and smaller size with the suited combos. Nick has other ideas.
Call.
He explores 290, was always prepared if the jam came in from Collopy to make the call.
Wow.
And
Professional all in.
Nick seems a bit surprised by Collopy's decision with the 7s to just rip.
Yeah, I don't know if he has too many other options. Flatting for that many of his chips and seeing a flop where almost every flop is going to deliver more than one overcard. But if he respects Nick's game and think Nick finds enough light 3-bets, then professional flop.
Ran is ruined.
Well,
he's ruined for life.
This is a disrespectful looking flop for 7s. King 8-6. And no backdoor equity on the turn. Leave Jim Collopy on the precipice of a first casualty. And
you definitely have me.
No.
Do a double check.
Yeah.
summon the pallbearers
7 or 4.
as Collopy's run
25.
comes to a close.
25 covered.
The first elimination.
I mean, there is no end to the facts about Cal that will be.
Isn't he just an anomaly of a human being in just every way?
He really is.
Just when you thought you knew it all. Just boundless, off the beaten path sort of stories. A life lived in full and far from over for Calvin Anderson. And meanwhile, life being breathed into the big blind for him as he looks down at 2 queens. Huni on the button, made it 110 with the 6s. Weisman flatted.
Does feel as though he's lived a few lives already. He's got the bracelets to show for it.
He's packed more into his 35 years than most do in a lifetime. And now he's going to pack a 3-bet to 365,000 into the middle. 6s lose luster in a hurry here.
It does feel, though.
All in.
Oh,
yeah.
You know, this is very reminiscent of what Collopy did with the 7s against Schulman's big blind without a squeeze aspect, which sort of broadens Anderson's range. And this is Anderson who's 3-betting, so you know that there is some, you know, zigging and zagging going on.
That is exactly what I was going to say. If anyone's getting action here from pocket 6s on the button,
Yeah, me too. I probably might
it's
have
Cal.
100K more.
Not that he's squeezing incredibly light all the time, but he's just always up to something.
Yeah.
I think Huni's all in here was very reasonable.
And when you are always up to something, you get action that maybe others don't, who march to a more singular beat, a straightforward nature.
No, I folded a queen.
And Huni fails to find the 6. He does cover, but only by 15K, Jesse. This is effectively his tournament. hanging in the balance. Can he find some backdoor equity here?
A little less fair.
I mean, any
little
other
less
random
fair.
card would be more fair, I think.
I think a 6.
Deuce 4 or a 7 open the door. Now it is a club, but he does go from 2 outs to 4.
Not quite as good, but
Yeah, sure.
6 of
We'll take
spades,
it.
non-club 4. That's what it takes for Huni to haul this one in and vanquish Anderson's queens. And instead, it is a red ace. Now Weisman ace queen. No klepto here. Genuine article.
10 seconds.
130.
130.
Ooh. King, queen suited could be trouble for Jeremy. You talked about impeccable timing, Jesse. This would be quite the opposite of that.
This feels unavoidable. There's really no other option on the stack size, yeah, especially from the small blind. And obviously, Weisman will not be
Have a count,
folding.
please.
136.
Although he does ask for a count, so.
Said 136.
I believe.
21 big blinds. I can't imagine we're folding cutoff or small blind here. Dylan also doesn't strike me as the guy who's over folding. Oh, I'm sorry. 23 big blinds or so? There's a lot of chips.
That one.
Yeah.
Is that ace king?
You kind of hold your breath, and he was worried about ace king. King queen, though, is a delight.
It's
good for now.
Not trying to startle, obviously. It's 20.
It's all good.
Yeah, 20 something bigs.
2.8
We got 2.
million chip pot.
Very bad.
And Ausmus recognizing the pre-flop spot isn't a good one for him.
No, once your opponent takes more than a few seconds, you're thinking that you have a flip. At worst. You're not expecting to be dominated very often. Obviously, his opponent's well within his right to take a few seconds
Sure.
deciding with ace-queen.
Awful looking board for king queen's prospects here. 6-6-4, no spade. Schulman pacing.
6.
Doesn't want to openly anti-sweat Jeremy, but that's good for business.
Good, right?
And that business gets better on the turn if you're Schulman and company looking to secure a 40K pay ladder and be amongst the final 3. Can Jeremy find the king? Yes!
Oh!
I got professional. Wow.
Wow.
What a gut punch.
Everyone else felt it. You could hear it in the audience.
136.
Did Cal,
125.
125.
once upon a time, credits that experience with teaching him lessons about empathy and understanding other people's perspectives. Said he was the worst server ever.
450.
Well, probably lucky for him, by the way, because would have been some lost talent in terms of poker had he committed himself to that field, as he commits himself to a 3-bet to 450,000, courtesy of ace-5. 7s for Weisman.
Time extension.
It was 7s that Collopy chose to mash with pre-flop off of similar stack depth early in the day.
Owen?
Owen.
I was about to say, I'd be quite surprised if Weisman folds here.
No, I said similar stack depth, just raw chips, but obviously with the blinds where they are now,
Yeah, yeah.
this is a far shallower proposition for Weisman than it was for Collopy when he jammed, as Dylan.
I think it was close, though. I think you're right. It was maybe 24 big blinds at the time.
Was it? Not too far off, I suppose.
I'm not 100%, but
More. 1.2.
Well, for Weisman, it is his final 19 bigs. Note that Anderson made the call, finds himself playing a pretty big one here with the ace-5. Finds himself a pair, but it isn't a big enough one to dethrone the 7s, as Dylan sits pretty for the time being. Hoping to haul in $2.5 million after taking that horrific beat with ace-queen against king-queen for all of it against Ausmus. And
Oh,
no
wow.
justice turn.
It's like that fox in hand.
I know. That's what I was thinking.
That's actually so sick that he knocked out Foxen in a similar fashion with the exact same
Weisman did.
hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, Weisman
With
knocked out
ace-5
Foxen,
against
yeah.
ace-king, yeah.
And now he's likely to be eliminated by the same hand in a bad beat. Wow.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it comes down. And Anderson, by the way, pounced all over Dylan for the next 40 minutes. Anderson limps a 10-9, dominated by Ausmus with jack-9.
This is such a nice chip stack situation for Cal.
10-9-6. Top 2 for Anderson. Second pair and the diamond dangler for Ausmus. Cal comes with a check and a limp pot pre. Jeremy checking back. Oh, no.
What is this?
9s full of 10s for Anderson, and he's going to lay bait here for Ausmus, who, of course, with trip 9s, is going to work some chips into the middle. Casual 100K flick.
How does Cal want to approach this? He has so much of the board. Slow playing makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, I think flat and then hope to maybe induce again on the river.
Sure.
We just don't need to announce ourselves. And in fact, we're almost hoping that some sort of draw comes in for Jeremy on the river.
Cal just fast plays it, though, and he'll be very happy that he decided to do that, given
Yeah.
how strong his opponent's hand is.
I'm with you, Jesse. I just figure when I hold the deck with 10-9, what do I anticipate is ever going to be able to respond to me here when I make it 375? And yet, Anderson choosing what is certainly the promising path as he makes it 375.
Cal just says, look, man, if you have a 9, we're going to play for a lot of it.
Did Jeremy 3-bet? Yes.
Oh, wow.
800,000 total.
Well, now I think if you're Cal, you just call. This actually looks a bit bluffy.
I mean, you could so often just have your opponent drawing dead here. If it is
Certainly.
indeed bluffy.
Yeah. If you think your opponent's capable of bluffing very often, and it's not that hard to be bluffing, any 8-7 could potentially get after it if
8x or
Jeremy-
7x, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Jeremy's a non-believer.
But it's important to point out that also the made hands, like a straight on the flop, that might be doing something like this, you have drawing dead. And so
Sure.
for Anderson, options available.
What a spot for Cal.
Dreamy and disaster, of course, for Ausmus.
Jeremy had better hope the river is either something like a 6 or just the sort of card where he can find a check back comfortably. Some kind of diamond. Oh, wow. I think Cal's clicking it.
Up we go once more. And these are the sorts of elusive beings that we don't often observe in the wilderness. A 4-bet to 1.35. Clicky. It's getting weird out here now. I mean, for Ausmus, we have too much hand to go away for another 535.
Oh, certainly,
But,
yeah.
I mean, considering how much he has back, just 2 million. What destination do we seek? What do you like, Jesse?
I tend to just call here, but man, we are starting to make our way into fairly uncharted territory. The 4 or 5 bet land on the turn does not come up very often, so
No.
whatever experience these two players have against each other is probably more important than anything I think about this spot.
Time extension.
How much? 1375.
1.350. Call.
Jeremy's making the call, and now if you're Anderson, you know a real hand lurks. What sort of real hand, though, when we have the 9 and we have the 10? Is it 7-8? Is it maybe 6 is full?
I mean, you're hoping it's one of those two.
Oh, my God.
Oh, come on.
The Jack of Clubs rolls right off on the river. Disaster for Anderson.
Jeremy Ausmus, man.
Boy, I'm starting to understand why Ausmus is rocking the shades. As the sun shines down on him, quite the opposite for Anderson, however, who flop top 2, turned the boat, and has just run into it here on this brutal river. I mean, 0.5 SPR.
Jeremy, where did that river card come from?
390.
Heaven. Look at Anderson. Just betting 390, Jesse. I mean,
Yeah.
these are just lesser seen situations. Of course, Ausmus, I think, at this point. We don't presume pocket 10s to lurk.
No, we never see pocket 10s, right? This is a limped pot. We don't see pocket jacks. The only hand he would ever lose to here is exactly Jack 9.
You're
it
talking
would have
about
had to-
Anderson. I'm talking about from Ausmus's perspective.
Oh,
What is it that we're worried about, if anything? Are pocket 10s in Anderson's range?
they could be, but I don't think you ever worry about that. You just go for all of it. And if your
Yeah.
opponent has 10s, you know, that's the life we live.
By the way, if the all-in declaration comes, which effectively it does, he leaves one chip back. This is just
You have the chip back?
a barf bag of a
All in.
spot
All in.
for Cal, who announces all in. Ausmus
Kidding me?
shows
Jeremy Ausmus.
Fucking believable, dude.
Jack Frost on the river.
Meanwhile, Jeremy's just so close
All in.
at this point. He can almost taste it. It becomes a game of just
870.
leaning on both players.
Oh. Oddly enough, the two shorties are cannibalizing each
Oh.
other. As you see Schulman jam with King 8. Anderson has found an ace.
Plug in.
3-2 favorite. I think a double here, allowing him to then square off with Ausmus heads up, would be a nice way for him to forget about the
Fold any of my
past.
deuces, Jeremy?
Huh?
Fold any of my deuces?
No. 930.
My friend, you in the lead.
Deuces are relevant.
This won't help you.
Maybe
Well,
the deuce will help.
Maybe it will. 8 deuce.
True.
Wow, my friend.
5-5 deuce. Anderson improving ever so slightly for Schulman. Still in
Maybe
need of a
the
king
Huni
or
five
8.
bank Throw in.
The turn fails to provide, as this
Gotta
2.2
wink. Gotta do the Hunichen.
gets
Huh?
oh so much
Sorry,
closer
y'all.
to Anderson.
King on the river, my friend.
Oh,
Wow.
So sick. Yeah.
ask and you shall receive, Mr. Schulman. And Cal wearing a smile, but I don't think he's at all pleased with this. Anderson not doing any folding.
Call.
On call.
It's a good hand.
Jack
Pretty good.
5 in the small,
Oh
rips
my
it and runs into
God.
kings. This is insulting a bit at this point. Jesse, I ask, is the Jack-5 offsuit a compulsory rip there from Cal, or do you feel as though this might have something to do with PTSD?
I was thinking it's a bit light,
I don't
but
know if we need to count these.
it's also a tricky situation because,
I hope we don't need to.
well, Cal does get the
Bad
button as a
sign if we
jam
need
spot.
to.
So you want to take your jam spots as liberally as you can, because if you're not the original opener, then Jeremy will probably have raised in front of you in most situations. But Cal gets a jam on his button
Well, on
and
the
a small
topic
blind.
of Jeremy and probably, this flop means it's probably all over for
Ooh.
Cal. Now, a glimmer of hope on the
Got a shot,
turn.
huh?
Nina needed to keep Cal intact. And instead, it's another full house
Unlucky, man. Jesus.
for Ausmus.
Ridiculous.
Good run.
Stellar achievements from both. Ausmus with 23.3 million in career earnings across 335 recorded cashes, 45 years of age. Wow. Also a 6-time bracelet winner. Jack 9-7. Limp pot pre. Ausmus with 9s versus the double gutter. Checks over.
Could be an interesting one. Jeremy probably going to come with check call here.
95,000.
Schulman with reasons to bet, of course. Comes with 95K.
Schulman's got a nice one. This is kind of a fun hand with a little bit of disguise to it if the 6 were to come off.
Yeah, the 6 is a bit more cryptic than the 10. Ausmus content to call.
Check.
Deuce of clubs, a desiccant on the turn.
The Schulman bet again, the 8 is a bit of